721. Here, the Big 550 KTRS. I am Paul Harris, filling in for McGraw, who's taking the rest of the year off. That sounds like an ominous thing to say, the rest of the year, but, you know, it's December 30th, for goodness sake. That means I'll be in here today and tomorrow filling in for him, and thank you for listening, and thank you for also checking us out with our live video feed on KTRS.com and STLtoday.com from the First Rule Film and Broadcast Center in the University Tower. One of the stories we're following, of course, is what happened to Air Asia Flight 8501, and we now have reports this morning that there have been debris and bodies spotted off the coast of Indonesia. Let's go to ABC News Chief Foreign Correspondent Terry Moran, who's in Jakarta, with an update. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, Paul. And in fact, Indonesian officials have confirmed they have found debris and bodies from that missing flight. So this has moved from a search operation to a recovery operation. The president of Indonesia speaking a little while ago saying his first priority will be to get the passengers and crew, their bodies, back to their loved ones and then figure out what happened. Right now it's nighttime here. The recovery operation has slowed a little bit. The seas are pretty heavy out there as well. Some weather's come down at the crash site, but they're confident that they will continue this grim task tomorrow.
Who spotted it, Terry?
It was about noon today, and what we've heard is that one of the search teams, as well as some local fishermen who were in the area, first spotted what seemed to be wreckage from the plane. You can see it in some of the pictures. It has the distinctive red and white markings that Air Asia planes do have, and then they came across bodies as well. So it was the fruit of some very aggressive and very well-managed search operations over the past couple of days. But this was bound to be something that probably would be found, given that it went down in narrow seas, shallow seas, heavily trafficked seas, and in fact, they did find it today.
Well, if the water is shallow there, in addition to the bodies and the debris, can they actually see the plane?
They can. That is one of the first clues that investigators are looking at. Indonesian officials say that from a Hercules plane, a search plane, they did see the shadow, the silhouette of the plane in the shallow water where it has come to rest, less than 100 feet deep. It indicates that the plane came down mostly intact. We've been steered away throughout this investigation by Indonesian officials from any notion that terrorism was involved, and certainly the fact that the plane seems to be more or less intact on the seabed floor indicates that it was not torn apart in some catastrophic bombing or other incident. The real question now for investigators, once they recover those bodies, is what happened? And it's a question that's very high priority for anyone who flies. This is a modern, well-maintained commercial jetliner packed with people that apparently ran into bad weather and through some horrible combination of circumstances and actions, was brought down because of it.
When I was talking to Steve Ganyard yesterday, the ABC News aviation consultant, he said, you know, if you're a pilot and you get into heavy weather like that, your first job is to fly the plane. Don't worry about making mayday calls, etc. It's possible that the weather was just so harsh that they had no time to deal with anything. But now the question has to be, it's been 9 months since the disappearance of Malaysian Airways Flight 370. We haven't found any debris or anything from that yet. What's the difference between that and this? Why was this easier to find?
Well, for one, this was maintaining radar contact until it seemed to the point at which it ran into difficulties. Investigators believe that that transponder, the part of equipment on the plane which communicates, sends volumes of data to air traffic control, was deliberately switched off. That's one of the great mysteries of the Malaysian Flight 370. It seems to investigators, their conclusion has been that the transponder was deliberately switched off. Here, it wasn't. And it does seem that, as you point out there, something happened in that cockpit, in that weather. And this is a part of the world and a time of the year where very ferocious weather, thunderstorms can boil up very, very quickly. and cause a lot of turbulence and cause a lot of problems for flyers. But as I say, modern jetliners are supposed to be able to endure a lot, and the fact that at least the last communication from that cockpit was that they were wanting to avoid some heavy weather, that could be one of the causes in bringing down this plane, is one that will really draw the attention of international investigators and airlines.
But as I understand it, that change that the pilot was requesting was really just a change in altitude to try to get above the weather rather than veering to the left or the right to get around the weather. So I'm curious whether the debris field where they're now pulling these bodies out of the water and the rest of the debris and where they can see the plane, is that on the original flight path?
That's a great question, and it seems from where they are locating this debris and these bodies, that in fact, the plane seems to have come down back along its flight path, not carrying on, but either had been buffeted, blown, or stalled and spun back several miles from the point of last contact in its flight path north. In other words, it's been found south and east, of where its last contact was when it was heading north and west. Something brought it backwards.
Now, as a person who flies frequently, as I'm sure you do, Terry, we all know that safety announcement they give at the beginning of every flight, which includes, in the event of a water landing, we have life vests on board, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which always seemed odd to me because in the event of a water landing, unless you're Sully Sullenberger, you have him as your pilot, a water landing is not going to go well for you. I'm curious, in this case, have they found any life jackets on any of the bodies that they have been pulling out?
So far, officials say none of the bodies have life preservers on them, which would indicate either that passengers were incapacitated because of a loss of pressure and oxygen at that altitude, or maybe some kind of other problem, something happened very, very quickly to disable them. But those are just the first few bodies. The fact that the plane, according to Indonesian officials who've seen it from the air, seems to be more or less intact suggests that that there might have been an opportunity to take some kind of security precaution as they were ditching. But one of the things that some aviation experts say is that in a situation that they were in, heading into heavy weather, trying to get above that weather, it's very easy to stall out a plane, and that the planes can come down pretty fast, and the pilots cannot quite get back hold of them in that instance. All that is speculation. That'll be up to the professionals. And
we will find out more as the day and days go by. Terry Moran, ABC News Chief Foreign Correspondent, live from Jakarta, Indonesia. Thanks for the update this morning.
You bet. Thanks, Paul.
Coming up on 7:30, Paul Harris from McGraw Live in the Morning on the Big 550.